Summer 2022 was going to be the great escape. After 2 years of COVID and restrictions and lockdowns, we were finally free to travel again. Except it didn't quite work out like that, because between issues and problems and delays with security or with luggage getting lost, and that was if you were lucky enough to get on a flight that wasn't cancelled in the first place, there were a lot of problems, ongoing problems in the airline industry over this summer. And one of the areas that's interested me in that has been the communication or lack of communication and the impact that that has had. I'm going to be taking a look at that in today's session. So welcome to episode 22 of Unlock Speaking Confidence with me, Maureen McCown. The Irish Times last week had an article about the luggage issues and the frustration of people who still don't have their luggage maybe 3 or 4 weeks after arriving into the country. And one of the most frustrating elements for people was the pure lack of communication, that they weren't getting replies to phone calls, that their emails weren't being answered. There was no contact, no connection with a human being, someone who was going to be able to tell and explain to them what was going on. And this is causing huge problem. You know, there's the saying that's no news is good news. No news isn't always good news, because if there's no news, it creates a vacuum. And when we have a vacuum, we put our own stories into that. So it's always better to keep the lines of communication open. But not only keeping them open, the how you do that is important as well. A colleague on LinkedIn shared with me his experience recently about an Aer Lingus flight that was cancelled. It was due to be returning home to Dublin. It was an early morning flight. They got an email quite late the night before to say that the flight was cancelled. Now, that wasn't the problem. The problem was the way in which the message was communicated. So starting with the subject line. I mean, if you're getting an email coming in at 11 o'clock at night for your flight being cancelled early the next morning, that's pretty important. You need to make sure that the client opens that email and that they get that information. And a subject line that referred to a case number isn't going to do that. If you haven't got a case already raised with regard to your flight, why would you think a case number subject line is going to be important or relevant to you? A far better way to do that would be to introduce some level of urgency into the subject line, some element of relevance to the person who's reading it. So, for example, important changes with regard to your upcoming flight, please open, please read. Get that message across that it's important to open the email. The body of the email wasn't much better because there was a total lack of empathy for the traveller in this particular situation. So the wording read, due to changes in our flight schedule, this service has been cancelled. We apologise for the inconvenience. And then they went on to list 3 options that were available for travellers to take at that stage. And the language that we use is important. You know, due to changes in our flight schedule. To me, as the traveller, that would suggest they don't care about me. It's about them. It's about their flight. They're doing something that's going to be convenient to them, and I'm not important. Whereas a simple tweak to what they had written could convey that we're all in this together type of situation. A slight change of phrase would have changed the tone. So, for example, due to unexpected circumstances, we have been forced to cancel your flight. Really, we're aware of the inconvenience this has caused, but we have got 3 options for you to take now to help you to create alternative travel plans. Something that shows that element of we are with you on this, we're here to support you on this. Still giving the 3 options. Small changes like that can really have a big difference to the way that the traveller is going to perceive the information. My third example that I have today is from my own experience, which was in June when I was travelling to Spain. And fortunately, our flight did take off. It was an hour late. But as we were sitting on the flight with quite early boarded, passengers stopped boarding. But very soon after that, the captain came on and he announced that it told us exactly what had happened, that they were a cabin crew member short, that when they had arrived that morning, they had the full complement of cabin staff, but that somebody was diverted onto another plane, and that until we had the full number of cabin crew, they couldn't let any more passengers onto the plane. That he understood how frustrating it was for us, and that he hoped that we'd be able to get going soon, and that he would keep us posted. And he did keep us posted, because he came back on later and told us, that they're still contacting and they're trying to get another crew member, and hopefully we'll be able to take off soon. Thank you for your patience. Later he told us that they had located this cabin member and that he was on his way. And again, contacted later and told us that the cabin member was actually in the building. So at all stages, we were being kept informed. Not only that, but he told us the cabin member's name. So Oscar was on his way. It was personalised. And eventually, when Oscar arrived on the plane, he was announced by the captain. There was a huge round of applause and everybody was happy. The rest of the passengers came on. We were an hour delayed, but there were no disgruntled passengers because we were kept informed. I have a blog post written on this on my website about 7 key things to consider in crisis